Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Good evening, dear friends. Welcome once again to Kardec Radio and the Divine Laws program. I am Correa, and every Tuesday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we gather together on all Kardec Radio platforms in order to invest on our own sense of well-being and inner joy for immortality. How shall we invest in such a sense for immortality? By understanding the laws that govern not only all of us on earth, but also the universe, in seeking to consciously harmonize ourselves with such laws, dear friends, we then emanate harmony, understand how to co-create harmony, and thus build harmony for ourselves and others. Harmony is not a subjective construct that is ethereal and out of our reach. Master Jesus incarnated on the earth 2,000 years ago to show us that it is possible for us to be, quote unquote, in heaven within ourselves, even though his kingdom, Master Jesus' kingdom, is not of this world. How was Master Jesus able to cultivate heaven within? By showing to us how to, quote unquote, walk the talk, how to practice the divine laws in our everyday lives. Because Master Jesus, dear friends, is our guide and model as well as the governor of the earth, we are here on Kardec Radio attempting to learn more about such source of divine wisdom so that we too can follow that same pathway, the pathway of alignment with the divine laws, the narrow door about which Master Jesus has spoken and taught us. So welcome to you, beloved friend. Please feel the embrace of all the mentors and of your guardian angel, because they all gather together to prepare this very special moment for us. And this is also a moment for us to be of service, because not only are we being embraced by the mentors, but everyone else connected to us and in need may also benefit from the current of light that we are generating together. So thank you so much for joining us. Should you have any comments or should you wish to say hello, please feel free to type your comments right here on our chat, and we will be very glad to interact with you. So tonight, dear friends, the focus of our study will be on question 878 of the third part of the Spirit's book by Allan Kardec, as we have been for the past 3 weeks. Dear friends, we shall continue to deepen our understanding of divine justice, but from an immortal perspective. Right, Veronica? Thank you for joining us. A big hug to you and your husband and your family. Welcome, welcome, dear soul, and welcome everyone. Let us then read the question posed by Kardec, then read the answer by the illuminated spirits. Afterwards, let us bring a couple of highlights, and then also bring about an exercise for us to feel the scriptures and put the teachings into practice. Hello, Gisela from Germany. How wonderful to have you here. We are also very grateful to be able to learn together. How beautiful that we are all making the conscious decision to invest on immortal wisdom together. Thank you, dear friend, and welcome, dear soul. So, dear friends, Kardec asks the following question. As humankind can delude themselves regarding the extent of their rights, what can make them see the matter clearly? So Kardec is very wise. He knows that oftentimes we are conflicted, oftentimes we all open exceptions for ourselves that we would not open for others. So Kardec is being a great educator and helping us to see through the eyes of the illuminated spirits how can we understand the matter of our limits as well as of our rights more clearly. The answer from the illuminated spirits is concise but powerful. They answer as follows. Knowing the limits of what they recognize as their neighbor's rights towards them under the same circumstances and conversely. So, in other words, the mentors are telling us that we shall know where our rights and the rights of others lie when we apply the golden rule. How can we understand or break the golden rule down? Are we doing to others what we would like to receive? Good question. Let us bring this to our current context. We are all on Earth facing a global pandemic. The pandemic is acting as a test of faith and trust in God for all of us. We can take physical measures, material measures to protect ourselves, and spiritual measures to protect ourselves. What may be the material measures that we can take? It is recommended in the United States by the Center of Disease Control that we wear a face mask and, if possible, that we get vaccinated in order to prevent the spread of the virus. And we may think, oh, Carol, we are adults. We should make the decision for ourselves. If we don't want to wear a mask, what difference does it make? It is just us. If we live by ourselves, if we don't have any family members nearby, why bother? Some people may say. And if we apply the golden rule to this scenario, we may come to think about or to consider a different outcome. We may think, well, although we live by ourselves, although our family members may be in a different country, although we don't have immediate obligations with children at the moment or have the elderly with us, we will still choose to wear a mask, for instance. Why? First of all, because we, in doing so, are protecting our own physical body. And our physical body is the most precious treasure we have in this reincarnation, because without it, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be conversing in this way. We wouldn't have Kardec Radio materialized, we wouldn't have the resources that we have. We wouldn't even have the Spirit's book available to us had Kardec not incarnated. So, because this is the absolutely necessary instrument for incarnation, by wearing a mask, we would be protecting our own physical treasure given to us by God. Also, what is the other ramification of it? Is that by wearing a mask, we may be decreasing the chances of the most vulnerable catching the virus. It could be a person that spends 3 minutes by our side in the supermarket. It could be the cashier in the supermarket. It could be an Uber driver. It could be a DoorDasher, the person that delivers food to us. It could be someone we don't know at all, but that by not wearing a mask, we may have put them at risk. If the situation were reversed, let us apply the golden rule. If the situation were reversed and we had someone who we loved be exposed to the virus in this manner because someone else did not do their share entirely, wouldn't we be upset? Most likely. So before we make a decision, we are being invited tonight to understand that every decision we make has consequences. And those consequences, beloved friends, are most likely not only impacting ourselves, but they are impacting those around us, those whom we may not even know. Let us bring a case from the book Heaven and Hell to our attention as well. The book Heaven and Hell was also written by Allan Kardec to illustrate the concept of divine justice. Kardec documented a mediumistic communication whereby he learned about the suicide of a mother after this mother begged for a piece of bread for her children, and the baker at that point in time refused to offer her one piece of bread. Thus, because she was ashamed from being imprisoned, from being caught by the police, she preferred to take her physical life away. Kardec was shocked by this event that was documented in the newspapers at the time, and he asked his mentor spirit, St. Louis, whose responsibility would it be for the suicide of that mother? Would the responsibility for that action of taking her physical life away fall upon her because she made that decision? Or would it fall upon the baker whose action precipitated her to make that choice? And the answer from the mentor spirit is striking. The mentor spirit directly explains that the baker will have greater responsibility for the mother's suicide because it was his lack of mercy and compassion that pushed her, the mother, over the edge. So one may argue, well, I was just a baker, I was minding my business, I had to care for my business. If I don't do it, who will do it? But one apparently insignificant action cascaded into an event that changed the lives not only of that mother but of their children, her children as well, and stayed recorded in the baker's conscience. Sooner or later, the baker's conscience will ask him to respond for that action. So, yes, dear friends, of course, speaking of divine rights, of course we have free will, a right given by God, inalienable right to each and every one of us spirits, incarnate or discarnate alike. Yes, but another right that God has granted us all equally is to respond to the consequences of our actions. So before we take the route of we will do whatever we want because we are adults, because we don't have to account to anyone anymore, because we have worked to have the type of freedom we do, because we are entitled to say what we want to say. Let us think about the long run of our choices. Let us think about whether we would like to receive the result of that action or not, whether our conscience is going to approve of that action in the long run. In the case of the baker, he likely had to reincarnate to redeem himself before that drastic act of withholding nourishment for that family. One action on the part of the baker cascaded into consequences that likely carry themselves out into a new life for him. Is it God that is punishing the baker, beloved friends? No. It is his conscience that is telling him, I do not approve of this route that you have decided to take. So most of us in our current society are applauded when we seek for immediate gratification. For instance, oh, well, we'll buy a car because it's time to change, anyways. We'll buy a beach house because at least we can go on vacation in the middle of the pandemic. We will this and that and the other, and our to-do list only increases as time goes by. But are we learning to think that whatever we accumulate becomes our responsibility, because even the material resources, such as our financial resources, are given to us by God temporarily? It is a loan from God, and when we discarnate, we are going to have to give accounts of how we utilize that God-given talent. Have we stopped to consider this? In other words, as we think of our rights, which we are very used to doing, we are used to saying, oh, we have worked so hard for this. We should do whatever we want with our resources. We haven't taken a vacation in a whole year, so now we don't care. We are just going. Come on, it's time. We need a break. We worked for it. We are not doing anything wrong. We want to retire in XYZ places, and that's it for us. We have isolated for a whole year, so don't push us to isolate anymore, Carol. Yes, these are statements that we actually hear from individuals we know. Yes, And so we are very good at nominating what we think are our rights. But above this material reality lies an even greater reality, a spiritual reality where we will return to sooner or later. Now, this carnation is closer to many of us than ever before because of the pandemic. We know that in an instant we may be asked to go back home. And then when we transition back home, that to-do list that we had is going to become the list of talents that we shall give account for. So what are we packing up in the suitcase of our conscience? Knowing that life on earth is temporary, what kind of thoughts and feelings and choices are we packing up in our perispiritual mind? Because although our actions may seem inconsequential at this very moment, we are taking mental pictures of our feelings, our thoughts, our choices, and our actions, and they are all being archived in our perispiritual brain. Our perispiritual brain is the suitcase that shall remain with us until God knows when. We will have that suitcase with us when we discarnate, and we will have a chance to review it together with the mentors who love us. So then, what are we packing up? Are we packing up a whole list of I want, I need this now, this is what I want things my way, we want things our way? Or are we packing up virtues? Virtues of patience, understanding, and empathy, because we are here. If we look at life from a spiritual perspective, we come to understand that we are not here to be served, but rather we are here to serve others. So then we see this pandemic as an opportunity to be of service. If we look at life from the spiritual greater perspective, we don't see ourselves as confined, as being punished, as suffering greatly. We see ourselves as blessed because we have the opportunity to collaborate with the general good by doing our best to diminish the impact of the virus individually and collectively. We have the opportunity to attest our faith because we can choose to despair, to rebel, or to resign ourselves. And we can be of good use to others. We can choose to be of good use to others by praying for others, for example, by thinking of others who are suffering more than we are, or we can choose to continue to be in our self-centered mentality. So the question for us is, are we ready to come to understand that our rights have a limit, that according to divine laws that are much beyond any country's laws because they are immutable and universal, our rights stop where the rights of others begin? In other words, when we discarnate, we are going to have to give an account of our actions in terms of how they impacted other people's actions or lives as well. And when we how to do the divine accountability of our actions. Our conscience is going to be our accountant. And what is our conscience going to write down on our balance sheet of immortality? Are we going to have more debts or more credits? If we train ourselves right now to think of the general good first, we cannot go wrong. Because then automatically we will be loving our neighbors as we love ourselves. We will be doing to others what we would like to receive. And this is divine justice. Human laws have not yet quite captured that facet of justice. Human laws have a tendency to focus more on the individual. God, however, is asking us to look above, look towards the general good, understand that what we do impacts on the general good because we are co-creators. So the pandemic, for instance, is a great test. When we feel physically confined and in isolation, are we still able to prioritize the general good? If we practice today to prioritize the general good, then we are going through the narrow door and learning the golden rule, learning to apply it rather than just say it. And to apply the golden rule, to give to others what we would like to receive, which is the divine definition of justice. Kardec Radio is launching a vaccination campaign as part of our social responsibility contribution to the general good, and Kardec Radio is also launching COVID-19 spiritist support for COVID-19 patients. If you, dear friends, know someone who has contracted COVID-19 and is in need of emotional, spiritual support, please have them write to kardecradio@gmail.com, and we, the team, the Kardec Radio team, the Spiritist Society of Virginia team will be there, team working to offer them support, to pray with them, to share affirmations with them, to make them feel as though they truly matter, that their life is precious, and they are children of God. Because this is what we would like to receive if we were in their situation. So all of us can do the good by thinking of someone else who is suffering, by offering a loving hand, even if only electronically or through the phone, virtually. All of us are capable of expanding our hearts to understand divine justice as doing unto others what we would like to receive. God is giving us daily opportunities to expand our hearts. So, our exercise for tonight, beloved friends, will be to think of one person that we know that may be suffering more than we are, and reach out to that person. How? We could write them an email, we could write them a Facebook message, we could send them a card, we could give them a call, we could FaceTime them, or we could pray for them. But yes, all of us can spread the good because this is what divine justice is all about. Wishing the good for ourselves and then practicing it, putting it into practice with our neighbors. So, what a blessing that we can become even more active in the task force of the good. Dear friends, we are so blessed that we can understand justice from a divine perspective. We thank you so much for joining us in this teamwork effort, and we already look forward to being here once again next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In the meantime, dear friends, we wish you many blessings. We send you a big, loving, fraternal hug. And we invite you to stay tuned right here on Kardec Radio, because here we are always nourishing our souls. Bye for now, dear friends. Many blessings.